Namaste. This is Giridhar Mamidi. Today we have a wonderful guest with us in our Nationalist Hub studios. He is Shri Raj Vedam ji. Is currently staying in Houston in USA, but he hails from Karnataka here. He started his career. He is actually an electrical engineer, and then of course he has gone on to do several other studies and research and all. Currently he is residing in USA. He is a scientist in maths, in science, and in researching Bharatiya's past. He has had a lot of efforts that he put in, and I'm sure a lot of you would have seen his videos on social media. But of course, he's currently working on several aspects of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and many of the new emerging technologies he's working with. I mean, he's come to our country about a few weeks back. So he's been good enough to accept our invitation to come to our studio and share some of his thoughts with us. Rajji, welcome to Nationalist Hub Studios.
Namaste, Giridharji. It's a real pleasure and a privilege to come on Nationalist Hub. Thank you very much for hosting me.
Thank you so much, sir. It's pleasure is all ours. So let's start with the beginning, right? There is this confusion of when did the Bharatiya's civilization start, right? The concept of yugas, Kruta Yuga to Kali Yuga. We now still do Sankalpa of Kali Yuge Pradama Pade. So is it that we had lakhs of years of each yuga, which doesn't fit into the archaeology or anthropology or any of that, right? So how do we understand the antiquity of this civilization? A lot of people tend to say 5,000, 6,000 years. So how do we look at it, and what's your study? What's your take on it?
Thank you, Giridharji. That's an excellent question. And as a person who works with science, I had to be constrained to look at the evidence, the data, and make the best possible statement on what it possibly could be. Starting with the word civilization, this word has been hijacked by several people to mean various things. For example, the ancient Greeks thought, whoever doesn't know, who knows Greek, you're civilized. If you don't know Greek, you're not civilized. That was their notion of civilization. At some point in time, it came that if you know writing, then you're civilized. Otherwise, you're uncivilized. At some other point, it came that if you have an urban civilization, urban network, like let's say buildings and all kinds of things, then they say it is civilized. Otherwise, it is not civilized. So people have used this word in various contexts to communicate whatever meaning they want. But I prefer for the Bharatiya system to show a level of awareness of cosmology, a level of awareness of who we are, our role in the universe, how we conduct ourselves on earth over here, and our purpose in life. All of these imply deep thinking, deep abstract thinking, and living in reverence with nature. I call this civilization. I know I have critics over there who say that only these archaeological finds that show urban kind, it's civilization, otherwise it is not. I'm sorry, I don't subscribe to that. So given such a definition of civilization, the question is how ancient is a Bharatiya civilization, and what can we use as evidence to point out these things? So yes, we can make use of several scientific tools like genetics, we can make use of archaeology, we can make use of climatology, including our own text. Our own texts have got data points that hint at the kind of antiquity that's involved over there. And in my talks, I talked about how if you talk about archaeology, we can show the presence of humans in India for a very long period of time. We can show the presence of at least human artifacts have been recovered, for example, in Tamil Nadu from 1 million years ago. We got stone tools that have been dated in the lab with OSL, optical simulated luminescence, and they go back to 1 million years ago. And through science, we presume the kind of humans living at that time were Homo erectus. And Homo erectus eventually gave way to other species like Denisovans, to what we call today Homo sapiens. But it's a continuum. It is not as if Homo sapiens came suddenly at some point in time. It's a continuum from there to now. So we see that, for example, in Narmada River Valley, in 1982, Dr. Arun Sonakia, he found a skull that is called Narmada skull. This has got a cranial capacity of 1400 cc, very close to the modern Homo sapien. If we think Homo erectus had a smaller cranial capacity, 1000 cc, by 350,000 years ago, somebody living in Narmada Valley had a cranial capacity close to modern Homo sapiens. So there is a lot of debate on who these specimens are and what relation they have with us and so on. But to me, what I see is artifacts. Continuum of artifacts from 1 million years ago, 350,000 years ago. If you go to places like Bhimbetka and other places, we see from 40,000 years ago. If you take a look at various parts of India, we find artifacts. Even if you examine the finds from Deccan College, there's a paper by Dr. Dikshit where they have done radiocarbon dating at the Saraswati Sindhu civilization, many archaeological sites. And some of their dates, the oldest dates, for example, in Birana, I think Dr. Dikshit has reported 9,500 years before present, they've got cultural artifacts dated with radiocarbon dating. So these are the kind of antiquities that we see. And when we talk about Harappa, it is much, much later, right? We're coming to 4,000, 5,000 years before. So clearly we've got a long lineage. So when people say our civilization started 5,000 years ago, I wonder how to make such a claim. Where did it come from? Where did it come from, given this long timeline that we have, given so much of evidence that we have? Where is the evidence for this? So this has come through the bias of people who say there has got to be archaeological remains. Only then it is civilization. Then they go to Harappa, Mohenjo-daro and say, okay, 3,500 BC, we start seeing civilization over here. So this is basically bowing to the biases of the people who use jargon in a certain way. But if we take a look at other evidences, like I said, I gave the example of archaeology. We can take the example of genetics. Genetics is showing a lineage in India going back to very ancient times, very, very ancient times, more than 50,000, 70,000 years ago. We got a stable maternal mitochondrial DNA as well as a Y chromosomal DNA showing the Indian DNA in all parts of the world, from India to other parts of the world, non-African world. So genetics is saying an antiquity. Then if you look at our own texts are talking about, for example, astronomy, in which I have talked about some of the dates over there that go back to great antiquity. Now coming to the core question, Giridharji, you asked about the Yuga model. The Yuga model hints some very great antiquity. What sense do we make out of that? So if we take a look at some of our earliest works, the Rig Veda is alluding to a 5-year Yuga cycle. If we go further down in time, we got a work called Vedanga Jyotisha by the Rishi Lagada. Either he wrote it or it is attributed to him. There also references there to a 5-year Yuga model. Going further down in time, we see in Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is now talking about a Chatur Yuga system. A Chatur Yuga system starting with Satya Yuga, then Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. It's talking about four Yuga system. And there's a certain timeline to that. I think it starts from 1,200 years for the Kali Yuga, times 2, times 3, times 4. So this is the kind of thing. So if you take the ascending Chatur Yuga, descending Chatur Yuga, it takes about 24,000 years. In the same Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a multiplier. It says 360 human years is equal to 1 divine year. 360 human years is equal to 1 divine year. So they multiplied everything by that. And through that multiplier, we have Kali Yuga of a duration 432,000 years. 2 times that is Dwapara. 3 times that is Treta. 4 times that is Satya. If you add up all these things, you get 4.32 million years will make one Chatur Yuga. Then if you take 71 of these Chatur Yugas, form a Manvantara. If you take 14 Manvantaras, it will form one Kalpa. One Kalpa is equal to the day of Brahma. And we have a night of Brahma. If you add these two with the Sandhya period, it comes to about 8.32 billion years. Not million, but billion. 8.32 billion years. So this is the model that our cosmologists, our ancient Indian scientists, they use these kind of Yuga models for various purposes. And one of the purposes that I think is to have precision in the arithmetic, in the astronomical calculations. If, for example, the Surya Siddhanta, they are talking how many revolutions of sun in one Chatur Yuga, how many revolutions of the moon, how many revolutions of Mars, of Jupiter, Saturn, all these constants are given in Surya Siddhanta from 600 BC at least. It is giving these constants. Because they are saying how many revolutions in one huge Chatur Yuga, 4.32 million years, there is more arithmetic precision. Instead of having a decimal point, Indians knew decimal point, but to remember these constants are difficult. So if they've got a huge multiplier, you can remember these integers more easily. So it is my view To answer your question, I took a long answer to your question. It's my view that there is a lot of data to show the antiquity of the Bharatiya people. Whether the evidence comes from paleontology or archaeology or genetics or our own texts, the great antiquity is clearly there. Our own texts are talking about timelines. Different yugas and timelines are present over there. And my best understanding is the yuga cycle of this huge timeline was used for astronomy calculations with great precision.
Okay, so that brings to a question. If you have this multiple types of yugas, like what you said, there's a cycle of 24,000. There's another cycle of some millions and going
Yes,
into billions,
yes.
right? So, the popular discussion in the society is Bhagwan Rama. He comes from Treta Yuga,
Yuga, yes.
which happened some lakhs of years back.
Right, right.
Is it that he's part of this 24 years, 1,000-year cycle that we need to look at Bhagwan Rama? Or are we supposed to look at the millions of years that they're talking about? Because that doesn't match with your anthropology, with your archaeology,
Very true.
and whatever we are getting it, right?
Very true.
So how do we understand it? Because there's massive amount of arguments, debates which go on.
Very true.
Some sampradayas just simply don't accept the 24,000 cycle at all.
Very true.
And then Swami Yukteswara Giri says we are now in Dwapara Yuga.
Right.
We have come out of Kali Yuga and we are in the ascending part, and so we are in Dwapara Yuga.
Right.
So how do you handle these contradictions or confusions rather?
So it is very difficult. The best I can do is to give an opinion which may not be shared by everybody. So if somebody who is very orthodox in their views, they might want to lay precedence to Srimad Bhagavatam from Vedavyas and say he is a better authority. Shabda Pramana, he is a better authority. So basically they use their thinking. So we are trying to see with the limited tools that we have, perception and inference. This is Vaisheshika. Rishi Kannada has talked about perception, inference. That is the basis of our scientific thought. We are trying to see what is the evidence that we have. So science is not able today to show very great antiquity in some aspects. For example, if you start saying 1 million years, 2 million years ago, 3 million years ago, the question will come, what was the state of the Homo sapien? There's no Homo sapien there, the human. It was clearly Homo erectus. At least what we call Homo erectus. Like I said, there is no separate Homo erectus, Denisovan. This is a continuum. We have continuously descended from there, and we have evolved in terms of cranial capacity, in terms of bone structure, and these kinds of things. So there are two ways of looking at it. One way of looking at it is very deep memory. If you lay precedence to the Srimad Bhagavatam's dates, you can say, yes, we know that Homo erectus at least from 2 million years ago. At least from 2 million years ago, we have got a fossil record, Homo erectus. Whether it's in Africa, India, China, Southeast Asia, we have got artifacts of Homo erectus. So if you want to look at it that way, yes, it is within the realm of science. Only thing is, we'll have to now identify other things. You say that Rama lived in Ayodhya, and Ayodhya is described as a bustling capital with a lot of archaeological buildings and so on. Then somebody might come and ask, where is the evidence? We'll be hard-pressed to say that. We'll be hard-pressed to say, yes, here is archaeological site of Prayagaraja or Ayodhya, here's where it is, and I've dug over here until this point, and this is what I have. Archaeology in the country today has managed to find remains, like I said, in Saraswati Sindhu from 9,500 years ago. In Bhimbetka, we are dating some of the cave paintings about 40,000 years ago. We have got these stone tools from under the earth. Doing OSL, we're able to date it to 1 million years ago. But we have not found archaeological sites. The fact that we don't find sites does not mean does not exist. Archaeology is an opportunistic way of doing things. If I dig and I'm lucky to find something, I found something. If I did not find something, does not mean does not exist. It may just mean I don't know where to dig. So we have to be guarded in our statements. That's the best that I can do. There are a lot of opinions, I'm aware of that. I respect people's opinions. Some are orthodox, they want to take this traditional date, they go with it. But then some are very scientific and they say, no, where is evidence for that? There's a civilization, blah, 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 and they go to a very later date. I take a middle ground over here. I keep an open mind and say, yes, this is within the realm of science, and this one is too conservative, and a variety of interpretations are possible here. And we must find reconciliation, reconcile with multiple evidences and say, where is the activity happening in the Bharatiya civilization? In my research, I found most of the activities happening from around 9,000 years ago till of the current times. That's where we have activity in the Bharatiya civilization. But does not preclude that earlier than that too, there could have been activity we have no idea about. You talked about the Yukteswar ji's dating of the ascending and descending Chaturyuga cycle, where we are on the ascending Dwapara right now. He made use of the 24,000 year cycle, which is related to precession of equinox, where the Earth is slowly tracing where the axis of rotation is pointing in the sky. Today it's pointing at Polaris, which we call Dhruva, and that is slowly tracing a path in the sky that takes 26,000 years to complete. So this, if you can round it to 24,000 years, his understanding was one entire cycle of humanity has taken place in one precision cycle. There could be many, many precision cycles. We wouldn't even know what would have happened earlier and so on. This is why our ancestors, when their idea of cosmology, they saw pralaya. They saw dissolution. At some point in time, there's a dissolution. At some point in time, there's a creation. And Brahma is making these things happen. In his day and night, he's making this happen. So our ancestors have seen cyclical time, that we have got a cyclical time. Our only issue now is, what is the timeline for this? Is it running into millions of years or tens of thousands of years? This is where the debate is. And I think it should continue on. It's a healthy debate we are having in the Sanatana Dharma community. I think we should continue with this.
Wonderful. Now, let's pick up from what you said, the equinox, autumnal equinox, moving from one star to another, and, the whole concept that you, many of your videos you speak about, right? We're sticking to the time pattern itself. I think Yukteswar Giri also mentioned about it. I think the first day of Kruta Yuga starts from Ashwini star or something like that, and then it moves on. And so maybe you could elaborate on it. Sure. So the thing is, it's just not that Earth is going around the sun, but sun is also going around something else.
Right.
And our, whatever your axis is also moving.
Right.
So if you can, speak to a layman, what is happening, what is it?
Sure.
And why is it that our ritus or our seasons have changed? See, for instance, Ugadi, for you also, Karnataka, it's Ugadi only, right?
Right.
So it comes roughly on 1st of April.
Right.
So April and May, when we do Sankalpa, we say Vasanta Rutu.
Right.
Whereas it's blazing hot now.
Right.
So let's say we talk about June, July. We have, in April we say Chaitram. In May we say Vaishakham.
Right.
And in June, say Chaitram, Vaishakham, Jyeshtam and Ashadam come in June and July.
Right.
And we do Sankalpam of Grishma Rutu.
Right.
Whereas it is pouring like hell. It's rainfall, right?
Yes.
So, and then I was told that in planetarium software, when they put some dates, some version they say Bhagavan Rama's birth is dated to 11th of January or something like that. Whereas we celebrated in mid of April, right? So, looks like the seasons have shifted 2 months because Panchangs were written God knows when. So, we still continue to do the same Sankalpa, but it has shifted. Similarly, I think January 12th or 13th we say Sankramana or Uttarayana, Punyakala. But whereas now it's actually happening on 23rd December itself. Right? How do you explain this movement, which I think you've done in many of your videos? I mean, I saw them, and you also spoke in Pragya Bharati's program last time when you were here. But then if you could explain to an absolute layman, because our audience would be really interested in knowing how this is happening and why these things are changing so much.
Excellent question, Giridharji. So it is a long answer, so please bear with me.
My question also was quite long.
So what is our Earth doing? We know our Earth is rotating once in 24 hours. We know Earth is going around the Sun approximately 365.24 days. We know these things. In addition to this, Earth has got 3 more degrees of movement. One is, as it is going around the Sun, this orbit becomes slightly more circular, slightly more elliptical. This cycle takes 100,000 years to complete. It's called cycle of eccentricity. The second cycle is the axis of precession. If you see how the Earth is rotating, it's pointing at the star that today we are calling Dhruva, right? And it is rotating about it from west to east. So the heavenly bodies appear to be going east to west. That's how the Earth is rotating. So that star is immobile in the sky because I'm pointing towards it. It is like a disco ball over there. When you rotate the disco ball, that light will not move much. But the lights on the equator move a lot, right? So it's like that. Now, the axis of rotation is slowly tracing a path in the sky that takes 26,000 years to complete. And the mental picture that I give to my audience is, if you played the top as a child, if you take a top, you tie a string around it, and you twirl it very hard, what happens? The top spins very, very, very fast. But as it is spinning, there is a slow wobble sometimes. And so our Earth is doing that. The fast spin is 24 hours, and the slow wobble is 26,000 years. Earth is doing this because of the gravitational action of the moon, the sun, and to a lesser extent, Jupiter. That is why we are doing this. Why is all this important to us? So, Indians had.
So, let me interject you a bit there. So, you are suggesting that today's pole star, Dhruva Nakshatra, will not be a pole star going forward.
It will not.
Something else would happen, right?
Yes, yes.
And what is the prediction? Which will be the next one now?
I will tell you. I'll tell you. Please give me just 1 minute and I'll tell you. So we had two kinds of systems, what we call Sayana system and Nirayana system. So in the Sayana system, we are referencing when the new year will start. When the vernal equinox happens, what we call today in Mesha Rashi. So first of Aries, that is where what we call Meshadi, that is where we start the new year, that is the Sayana system. In the Nirayana system, it is with respect to some nakshatra. If I say that vernal equinox will happen at Kritika nakshatra.
I think for the audience, vernal equinox, it happens in March.
In March. If I say that vernal equinox is happening at Kritika nakshatra, this is happening in 2500 BCE. Right? So that means every time we have a return back to vernal equinox position and Kritika is over there, we count the passage of time, that 1 year is completed. So this is what we say sidereal and synodic. Sidereal means with respect to a nakshatra. Synodic means with respect to a point that in Sayana system we call that. Now there is a big difference. We have to now visualize. It's a little difficult, but please try to visualize. In the Sayana system, because we are saying the first of Aries, that point is going to slip because of precession. Because precession is taking place. If I say today I am pointing at vernal equinox, let us say I'll just throw out Kritika. After 1,000 years, Earth has moved on. It is pointing somewhere else. The reference point has changed. Kritika is still over there, but now I'm pointing at some other nakshatra over here. So this is the kind of difference that happens because of precession. These things happen.
How long would it take from moving from one star to another star?
One nakshatra to the other. So we have 27 nakshatras and we got 360 degrees. 360 degrees is going to take 26,000 years. Let's round it a bit and say 27 nakshatras, 27,000 years. So if you divide them, approximately 1,000 years per nakshatra. In reality, about 972 years. Okay. So from nakshatra to nakshatra, it takes 972 years. So even by back of the envelope calculation, we can quickly tell you when a nakshatra was at the vernal equinox point. Now, given that a precession of equinox is happening, the issue is how did Indians follow the passage of time? Indians always considered vernal equinox as the start of the new year. They always said what was a nakshatra at vernal equinox point. We had a coordinate system. Just like today we're using latitude and longitude on the earth to find points in the globe, we use latitude, longitude. Most of us use GPS. GPS is using latitude, longitude to find those coordinates. We also have coordinate system for the skies. If you take, for example, our Earth's latitudes, longitudes, project it in the sky, that will become celestial coordinates. In celestial coordinates, now you can have different coordinate system. Our ancestors used something called ecliptic coordinate system. In that, they would try to tell you where a certain nakshatra can be found. Why is that important? Because if I want to tell my friend that Kritika is going to be in the eastern horizon over there at 6 o'clock in the evening, if you look at 6 o'clock in the evening, yes, it is there. But with the rotation of Earth, Kritika is moving in the sky. By 8 o'clock, it is going to be somewhere over there, which means I don't have a good way of saying where the nakshatra will be if I point through the direction. I need a coordinate system that will rotate with the Earth, for example. So Indians made use of something called ecliptic coordinate system. Where is the evidence for that? It is there in Surya Siddhanta. Surya Siddhanta is talking about the first nakshatra at the point of vernal equinox. That is the first nakshatra in the list of nakshatras. The version of Surya Siddhanta we have, it starts with Ashwini. Ashwini was at the vernal equinox going back to 600 BCE. That's how we say the version of Surya Siddhanta we have must date from at least 600 BCE. But we have evidence that there was a different calendar system in the past. For example, there was a system with Mrigashirsha. Mrigashirsha was at the vernal equinox way back in time, 4000 BCE. From that, it went to Rohini after 1000 years. From Rohini, it has gone to Kritika, and from Kritika, it has gone to Bharani, and so on, and it is at Ashwini now. So we have this evidence. Each time, precision of equinox necessitated our ancestors to change the calendar system, they would recompute. They will rearrange the list of nakshatras, so now the next one will come to the top fellow goes to the bottom. When they do that, they have to now tell you the new coordinates for each of the nakshatra. We have that evidence, sir. We have this evidence of all of these things. That is why calendar systems keeps changing over time. Now, you asked one more question. You asked, why have our festivals slipped? Why have the festivals slipped, and why are the seasons also slipping? Now, the cycles I told you about this eccentricity cycle, precession cycle, there's one more called tilt cycle in 41,000 years. The impact of these three cycles is that Earth will get more radiant energy from the sun in some periods of time, and sometimes the conditions are such that we get less radiant energy. This controls the drought cycles of Earth and the ice ages. This is something called Milankovitch theory. A Serbian guy in 1920s, he proposed this, that these cycles have a bearing on climate records. It is one of the most successful theories because we can go to Greenland, we can take the ice core, we can see when is the dry period, when is the wet period, correlates very well with this. So we know that Earth has been undergoing these kind of things for a long period of time. We also know that we have been making use of the Nirayana system, sidereal, with respect to nakshatra, that changes over time. So we know that from time to time, we have to change our calendar system. Who was changing the calendar system? A good friend of mine says India had a tradition where every 60 years or so, there'd be a sammelan of the Jyotisha experts in the country. They'll all come to a point, they'll recompute, they'll take back the new coordinates, and they make the Panchanga in different parts of the country. But since the time of the Mughals at least, such a tradition has been destroyed. So that such a sammelan has not been happening. British time completely wiped out. So our maps, our calendrical systems have been frozen at some point over here. So we are continuing making the Panchanga. We are continuing with these things, but the corrections have not been done. We need some corrections. So we have slipped in time a little bit. That is why when we say Vishu or Yugadi is on April 15th, and maybe it is a little earlier it has happened. If you say that we are observing the winter solstice Pongal, or this festival, December 22nd is the actual time, but we are slipped and we are about 15 days, 20 days off from that particular system. So these errors are there because we are not corrected it. And at some point, if we like these things to again coincide, we'll have to change our calendar systems. Again, it's a matter of perspective. Some people might say, all I'm saying for Makara Shankranti is, when does the Surya come into Makara? That Shankranti is all I want. And that's what I'm observing. At some point in the time, it coincided with Pongal and with other festivals. This is about the time of Aryabhatta, literally, around 500 current era. Since that time, we have slipped. So some say, I don't care. I'm only celebrating Makara Shankranti. This is when it happens. But even that is happening December 22nd.
Yeah. That's where the issue is. I mean, if it's just a simple celebration, it's a different story. But you're saying that is Uttarayana.
Right, right.
So, we have this concept that Bhishma waited for Uttarayana to pass away, right?
Right.
So, what happens is people who die after 22nd of December till 12th of January, they're still doing Sankalpa that this is Dakshinayana.
Right.
But in actual reality, it's already Uttarayana started. Right. A simple celebration of Makara Sankranti because he enters Makara Rashi, that's fine. But when it comes to the other aspects, the confusion is actually hurting people.
It is. It certainly is. And I truly wish that we have such a sammelan once again of all the pundits from different parts of the country and have debates. I've seen some of these debates take place. Recently, there was in Tamil Nadu, I saw online YouTube, I saw a debate from various scholars exactly on this problem. Do we have to correct our calendar? What is the issue? So even educating our people about the system, the difference between Sayana and Nirayana system, and why these things happen, why the corrections need to be made, that will also take some effort because we have lost the expertise. We have lost the adhikara. The people who are experts are all gone, and that Guru Shishya tradition is not continued after these Muslim invasions and others. So we are in an unfortunate situation. We have to reclaim our scientific heritage We have to reclaim our Sanatana Dharma heritage and merge the two, because we are a scientific civilization. We are a knowledge-based civilization. We can't afford to be in ignorance and claim that we are a knowledge-based civilization. So we have to reset. At some point, we need authorities, the people with adhikara over here, to come and say, yes, resetting has happened. One such adhikara happened when Nehru set up the National Calendar Committee in 1950s. But that had so many problems. Even today, there are controversies about the things they have done.
Yeah. So I think last thing on time, I would want to ask you is about, there is this, I don't know, a lot of, again, it's all WhatsApp University. The concept of Abhijit Tara. They say it has fallen off, right? And so a lot of discussion goes on that. What is this Abhijit, and what is it all about?
Okay. So Abhijit is a nakshatra. In the Greek tradition, we call it Vega. In the Indian tradition, we call it Abhijit. So if you want to see where Abhijit is in relation to our present day Dhruva, our present day Dhruva is Polaris. So if you are pointing at Polaris, in the circle of precision I talked to you about, it is on the other side.
Okay.
It will take about 13,000 years for the cycle of precision to go to Abhijit once again. So that is where Abhijit is. So the issues come because of a certain confusion. In the Taittiriya Samhita is attributed to Rishi Yajnavalkya, which I have dated to approximately 3000 BCE. In that tradition, we have got 27 nakshatras. 27 nakshatras are listed over there, which means Abhijit is not one of the nakshatras. In the Taittiriya Brahmana, there are 28. There are 28. So we know from the record that initially we had 27 nakshatras. At some period of time, 28 came in. Then once again, Abhijit was dropped and it became 27. Now, can Abhijit qualify to be a nakshatra? By our definition, the moon must visit the nakshatra, right? Moon must visit. So if you take a look scientifically, ecliptic is the path of the sun. But the sun is not going anywhere. Earth is going around. From our perspective, it looks like sun is going around, right? So that is the ecliptic. If we think of the ecliptic as this particular plane, the orbit of the moon is offset.
Cutting
Offset is about 5 degrees. It is offset by 5 degrees. So all the nakshatras are distributed about this one plus and minus 5 degrees about the ecliptic.
Okay.
So the moon visits approximately some of these nakshatras. In fact, the notion that moon, Chandra allowed Rohini comes basically from this idea, and precision of equinox comes from that. So the issue is, where is Abhijit with respect to this ecliptic? Okay. Far away. It is far away from the ecliptic. The moon will never touch Abhijit. So clearly Abhijit does not qualify as a nakshatra. So the question will then come, why did our ancestors at some period of time feel constrained to bring in Abhijit? There are some theories, which I'm not going into right now, but the evidence we have from Surya Siddhanta and others is that Abhijit is not assigned a Swabhoga. Swabhoga means the longitude. When Surya Siddhanta is giving the numbers from Ashwin onwards, it is giving the number for each nakshatra, it is giving that. It does not assign it for Abhijit, meaning that it is not a real nakshatra. It names it, but it does not give it a nakshatra. Okay. So the fall of Abhijit, as it is there in Mahabharata, I think there's a dialogue between Indra and Skanda, if I may be mistaken, but over there it comes a notion that Abhijit has fallen. Dr. Vartak wrote some books some time back, Scientific Dating of Mahabharata. In that, he laid forward the hypothesis that at some point in time, the precision of equinox was such that Abhijit was very close to being the pole star. Abhijit is slightly off from the celestial North Pole. It may be a little off, but almost over there. So he proposes that that was a time when this cultural memory of Abhijit being the pole star, and after a period of time, Abhijit is no longer the pole star. And given how far away it has fallen in the sky. Oh. So there is a remembrance that has fallen in the sky. So this is an interpretation. I'm sure there are multiple interpretations. This is one of them.
Wonderful, wonderful. Raj Vedam ji, we will move to another subject. Let's say we'll talk about space. Right? What is the concept of space among Bharatiyas? A few references are spoken about, especially the Samvad of Gargi and Yajnavalkya in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. I think she asks a wonderful question. What is the difference or relation between space and vacuum and things like that? A lot of issues on space are discussed.
Right.
Then he says space can't exist without time, and time can't exist without space, and matter. All three are interrelated.
Right.
He spoke a lot of stuff. So if you could briefly explain what our ancient rishis and our thinkers thought about space, and does it match with the modern scientific discoveries? And how did they speak about stars or galactic lives which are very, very far away, with relative amount of, some kind of a commonality with what we are discovering now? Maybe the concepts of black holes, rudras, whatever. How did they understand space? And, how did it relate to what's happening on us, on Earth, or whatever it is? How did they do all these studies?
Right. Excellent question. So, what is space even called in the Indian system? The Panchamahabhuta, it is one of them. Akasha, ether, that we say is one of them over there. So, we are seeing the study of the nature of the cosmos is cosmology. We are seeing our ancient Indians discussing the nature of reality, because that's what it's all about. We're always discussing the nature of reality. What they observe, they're trying to make sense out of that. In the Nasadiya Sukta itself, in the Rig Veda, we are seeing our ancient Indians proposing that there was a time when there was no time, there was no space, there was no darkness, no light, no wind, only the one, Brahman. He existed breathing windlessly. Only he existed. It's a prediction now. It's a hypothesis saying that is how it was at one point in time. But in the very next verse, it is saying, but after all, who knows? Who knows what is true? Even the Devas are after creation. So he's saying maybe even the one, Brahman, maybe he or she, even they don't know how these things are. So this is the correction. So we are seeing our ancestors, the tremendous scientific acumen. They're saying, here is my prediction, but I'm very cautious. I'm stepping back and saying I may be in error. You see what you're saying? So this is what we have. Then in the same Rig Veda, in cosmology, this is what I call cosmology, trying to understand cosmos. We're seeing the Devi Suktam. Devi Suktam is now saying everything is happening because of Devi, right? Saying it's because of me. If you're breathing, if you're eating, if you're sleeping, it's all because of me. It is calling out the attributes of creation. It is calling out the attributes of creation over here. In one more Suktam, Hiranyagarbha Sukta, it is talking once again, like I said, who is the deity that we shall worship? It is saying he who has made the earth, he who has made the wind, he who has made the mountains, he who has made the ocean. So it's again calling out the attributes of creation and saying all this is due to Brahman and this is the deity that we are worshipping. So we are seeing in the Rig Vedic tradition itself and are trying to understand cosmology in various ways. And coming down in time, like you pointed out, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, we had this brilliant dialogue between Yajnavalkya and Gargi over there in the court of King Janaka. These things are taking place where Gargi is challenging him in his ideas of cosmology. And we see Yajnavalkya correctly saying that everything on earth is covered by water, and water is covered by the air, and air is covered. Like this, he goes on one after the other. He goes to the world of planets, the world of Gandharvas, to the world of the sun, and even further beyond that, and says everything finally is in the world of Brahman. And interestingly, whatever he said is a correct hierarchy, the correct hierarchy that we see starting from our existence here on land to water, to air, to space, to the world of our solar system to the galaxy, going on to the entire Brahman, everything is Brahman. Gargi now wants to know what is there before Hiranyagarbha. So she wants to know what came before. And Yajnavalkya is saying, be careful, don't ask that question. But then other parts of our cosmology, Srimad Bhagavatam is saying it's a cyclical creation, right?
Yeah, actually in this, what you said, Yajnavalkya's warning to Gargi, a traditional interpretation is she irritated him. But our Guruji said, how can a Brahmagyani have irritation?
Correct.
He said this is something which your brain can't comprehend.
Yes.
It has to be experienced.
Yes.
I hope I'm right.
Yes. That's what even I say the same thing. Yeah. Somebody like Yajnavalkya couldn't have done that. But in the same dialogue, Gargi is also asking other questions. She's saying, Yajnavalkya, What is there above us and below us? And he's saying, oh, Gargi, there's nothing. It's just unmanifest ether.
Okay.
Clearly saying space. We are suspended in space. This is what he is saying. Which other civilization has said this?
Yeah.
In my courses, I talk about the ancient Egyptian civilization, the Mesopotamians, the Greeks. They all thought flat earth, supported by pillars. Pillars of creation are supporting the earth, and those pillars are holding up the heavens, firmament. In that heaven, which is a firmament, there are stars that are affixed over there. We are seeing heaven through those holes. This is that concept of ancient Egypt, of Mesopotamia and others. And here are our ancestors in 3000 BCE saying, nothing, only space is there, earth is suspended. Then Gargi is asking further questions which we can interpret as gravity. And he's saying, Yajnavalkya is saying it is an immutable force. Immutable means unchangeable. An unchangeable force, Gargi, is the reason why time is what it is. It is the one that is holding muhurtas in their place. Moments, all the moments in time are because of this, what we call gravity today. Gravity. He's saying the rivers are flowing because of that. Sun and moon are held in their position because of that. This is brilliant, sir. It is talking about gravity at a time when we couldn't even imagine these things.
Yeah.
The Westerners love to say we were a superstitious lot, but this man has articulated everything with so much scientific acumen. Today we know gravity is the reason why even the planets, stars, sun, everything is gravity acting over here. We also know the impact because of gravity, time dilation because of gravity, heavy mass, gravity and other things. We know all these things. But this articulation has come from here. Such a brilliant thing saying time is because of gravity. That is what I found super interesting over here. So this is in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. We talked Rig Veda, we talked Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and we talked about Srimad Bhagavatam, that is talking about cyclical creation. That this is the nature of space, that Brahma calls everything into existence, everything goes out of existence. Then I also ask an interesting question. If we believe in this present day scientific understanding, astrophysics is saying that looking at all the receding galaxies, it says there was a period of time when everything was together. And that is referred to be as the Big Bang, the big singularity. About 13.8 billion years ago, there's only the singularity. And that massive expansion eventually gave rise to protons, electrons, matter, light, and the galaxies that we see today. This is what they say. I ask a question, if there was a singularity and an expansion, we expect a uniformity over there because there's no prior initial condition. We expect uniformity. Wherever I look in the sky, I must see equal number of stars and galaxies and so on. But this is not true. We are seeing some areas of the sky with more stars, more galaxies, some have lesser and so on. So what causes this non-uniformity? Scientists say that it is because of the early matter and antimatter. It is universe has evolved in such a way the antimatter is all gone, all out, and this is the remaining baryonic matter. 5% of the universe weight is baryonic matter, according to them. We leave that aside. I have brought in the concept of vasana. The Vedic concept of vasana is that our Atman has got imprints of our actions, our karmic imprints of our actions, which we carry after reincarnation to the next birth. That is, sometimes they are drawn to a certain habit. For example, a child, when it is born, after 1 or 2 years, it is singing beautifully, playing the piano beautifully. Where did it come from? We say vasana. Prior birth vasana is what has led to this kind of thing. The universe itself is vasana. And this was brought out by the astrophysicist. He's from Oxford University. He got Penrose, Roger Penrose. He got the Nobel Prize for his work on black holes. So he said that there are anomalies in the cosmic microwave background. He counted up to 30 to 35 anomalies, and using some mathematics that he called cyclical conformal transformations, he was able to say these are the remnants of the black holes of the prior universe. A prior universe. He says there was a prior universe that existed that has gone to a big crunch and led to the present universe. And our universe has evolved this way because of the actions of the prior black holes of the prior universe. In other words, vasana. Vasana of the previous universe has led to where we are today. So this, sir, is very similar to our cyclical time in Srimad Bhagavatam, that is talking about Brahma's day and night, that Brahma dissolves everything in Pralaya, then once again brings forth a new creation. Such a concept is so massive in cyclical time, and now there is serious models in astrophysics that are talking big bounds. This model is called the Big Bounds model, and Roger Penrose, very respected Nobel Prize winning scientist, is saying an earlier universe existed and I can measure it in the cosmic microwave background. Fascinating concepts. So our ancients seem to have got several ideas of space that is there within Rig Veda or in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, on Srimad Bhagavatam. We find instances of these again and again.
I mean, if you take it a little further, so that means the Big Bang happened several times.
Over
Possibly,
time. Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
Obviously, even those remnants of the past universe,
Right.
which this person from Oxford Penrose is talking about, that means that would have already been dissolved,
Right.
and then it also came out of some Big Bang.
Right.
So whatever 13 billion years, what you're saying,
right.
is the Big Bang we know of now,
Right.
right?
Right.
So they must have something
There
has
must be a
happened.
prior one also.
Yeah.
But here is a fascinating thing about Indian thought. Our cosmology did not end there. Our scientists were so brilliant that they were imagining more than that. Evidence is there in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is there in Brahma Vaivarta Purana, it is there in several other Puranic works. What are they saying? In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is calling out Vishnu. He's saying, Vishnu, you're so great. You're so great that there are innumerable Brahmandas inside you. Innumerable, infinite Brahmandas inside you, moving around like dust, like atoms, they're moving around inside you. Sir, it is multiverse.
Yeah.
It is multiverses they're talking about, which is a fascinating concept today when people are trying to explain where is the missing matter in the universe. Observable universe is just 5% of matter. Where is the remaining 95%? People are talking dark energy, dark matter, and all these things account for that. There are others who are speculating multiverses. There might be another realm of existence over there which we can't see. These ideas are there in our cosmology where they're saying it's not just one Brahmanda. We have got multiple Brahmandas. Multiple Brahmandas, each with its own Brahma, Shiva, its own Indra, and all these kind of things. These are all coexisting at the same time. So this idea is there in Srimad Bhagavatam. There is a story in Brahma Vaivarta Purana also. Over there, Indra is a very vain person. So he is making this Vishwakarma, giving him a run for his money. Vishwakarma is trying to build the palace. Indra is not happy. He's saying, build it more fine, bigger. And Vishwakarma is so exhausted. He goes to Vishnu and he says, what do I do with this fellow? Vishnu says, I'll humble him. So he takes the form of a Brahmana. And there's a dialogue between Indra and Brahmana. Eventually, there's a line of ants that are going into the palace. And this Brahmana is pointing out to each of the saying, each of those ants was an Indra in a prior lifetime in another Brahmanda. Who are you, Indra? There's nothing. There are innumerable Brahmandas. You're a tiny fellow over here. Be humble. So Brahma Vaivarta Purana also brings out this multiverse concept.
I think even Purusha Sukta, you have this Padoscha Viswa Bhutani, Tripada Urdhva Uday Purusha. The known universe is only 1/4 of him,
Right.
and 3/4 of him is beyond this universe, they say.
Amazing. So clearly our ancients had concepts of cosmology that are rivaling what we have today. Today we have more instrumentation. The yantras that our ancestors used and what these people are using is different. Today, our scientists have got things like radiometry. They got things like spectroscopy. They got things like space telescopes and things like that, measuring in infrared, all the spectrum, throughout the electromagnetic spectrum. They're able to make measurements, understand the cosmos in each of these things. We did not have that.
Then how did they find out?
That is amazing. Through their tapasya, our scientists are able to go into contemplative state of mind and use a causal effect. What is causing what? This is again a testament to our civilization. We were not people who said, God did it, God said that, be happy, don't question it, it's blasphemy. We did not do that. In fact, maybe in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad itself, where it is saying that Surya is stringing the worlds to himself on a string. And that is the reason why things are moving around. And they're saying, why are the planets moving around? They're saying it's because of a divine wind. Today we might laugh at it. But if you look behind and see what are they doing, they have a cause and effect. There cannot be something without a cause, that prime mover. So they were so scientific in their thinking that they're saying there must be some impelling force. That impelling force, metaphorically, they called it a wind and said that is what is over there. So this is what I'm saying.
But would it not be even now we have solar wind, we say, right?
True, solar particles are there that
which interferes with your magnetic field and all.
Very true, very true.
Yeah, the aurora borealis you see.
Yes. Yeah. That is also there in one of our stories. Should I go there now?
Yeah, sure. Why not? See, the point is, each of these aspects, we spoke about time, now we're speaking about space.
Right.
How did they conceptualize these things, which scientific discoveries now science is struggling to find out? Whereas, how did these people come out with these concepts? They are not fiction. So if somebody says, a plastic surgery of Ganesha is a fiction, it's just an imagination, myth, whatever. But these concepts, there is no Ganesha, there is nothing, right? How can they come out with this Rudras, which are, devolving everything, which is their black hole stuff, or whatever? All these concepts of space, they have not visited, they didn't have telescope also.
Right.
But then how did they come up with such accurate description is just amazing. Of course, elders say that in the secrets of the universe are within you.
Right.
And so they had a darshan of it and they spoke about it.
Right.
These are some explanations they give.
Right.
But then the way you're talking, the way you're explaining how these people have discovered or what they discovered is beyond human, a normal person without those instruments that you spoke about. Right. How did they discover it? Right?
So, Giridharji, as a scientist, I'll tell you something that when I was doing my PhD, many times I would have difficulty with some algorithm or something like that. And typically before I sleep, I keep thinking about it. How do I do that? How do I do that? My subconscious mind is working at night. In the morning, it will tell me that try this, maybe it will work. It may or may not work, but I have a new line to investigate, right? That is the beauty on that. We have seen several scientists say serendipity. They're searching for something else, but they find something very valuable. They're not looking for it, but they find it, serendipity. Then we have scientists who say, we got this inspiration in a dream. Kekule, for the benzene ring, that we have this ring structure, he saw a snake eating itself. It's a basic ring structure, and that's what gave it to him. So we have got in today's scientific world, the notion that we can have serendipity, we can have inspiration in dreams, we can have insight. After thinking about a problem for long enough, we can have insight. I talk about that in our darshanas. For example, in one of our darshanas, we have Vaisheshika, perception, inference. Samkhya, systematic enumeration and rational examination. Rishi Kapila has talked about that. If you go to Mimamsa and others, we're talking about reflection, consideration, profound thought, examination, discussion. These are the ways in which we understand our darshana. When you look at the world, this is the way we should look at it. That's what these great sages are telling us, rishis are telling us. So, as scientists, we use all of these things. If I want to investigate something new, I go to the library and see who are all the people who have studied this phenomena. In other words, I'm doing a systematic enumeration of all the facts known about this. Then I do a rational examination. Each person who's published a paper, what methodology did they use? What lab method did they use? What algorithm they used? I make a systematic enumeration. From there, I go on to thinking about it, discussion, consideration. Maybe I talk to a colleague, the whiteboard, and say, this is what he has done. I think about it, drink a cup of tea, think about it, and eventually, I know what it is. So what I'm saying is, the insight that leads science is not as if it's a path, you just keep working in it, you'll get it. It comes through fits and starts. Science develops by fits and starts through these processes of serendipity, getting ideas and dreams, getting insight because you've been thinking about it, or you see some metaphor somewhere, suddenly an inspiration comes to you. How do we explain this, sir? How do we explain this? In the rational world, how do I explain all of these things I just told you? I think
even Ramanujam said he got it.
Devi wrote on his tongue.
Yeah.
She wrote the formulas on his tongue and he got it. So we say, my mother would always say, Before you start something, pray to Ganapati to remove the obstacles in your path. Divine insight, inspiration can happen. We don't know these things. We don't know how we control our own destiny, maybe through this notion of quantum physics and things they talk about, that observation leads to an outcome, they say, right? So maybe there is a way we will certain things to come into existence because of the power of our thinking, power of our prayers. We don't know. As scientists, all we can say is we don't know. But we know that this is the way science is progressing today. So when you ask, how did our rishis know these things? My strong belief is there's nothing that they did not have that we have today. These yantras that we have today are only trying to investigate the real world. It is only trying to validate a hypothesis that you have. You might have a hypothesis, this is the causal relationship between this one and that one. So I do a lab experiment and verify that, and I'll say, yes, it seems to mimic that, or not. Right? Even there, the fit won't be exactly 100% validation of what you're saying. 70% of the time it matters, and so on. So even that is not valid. So we had to take a step back and ask, and I say that our rishis, they would go into contemplative states of mind with tapasya, contemplating on reality, nature of reality. On some problem, they think, insight comes. Insight comes, and they try to say, how did this matter happen? They can look around and see the cycles of nature. They see these things. They see when somebody is dead, how that body is decomposing, going back to nature, rejuvenating. They see all these things. And our scientists, our rishis are able to make all these calls. So I don't think it is surprising at all. To me, they were excellent scientists because our Sanatan Dharma allowed the freedom. It allowed the freedom to think, which Abrahamic systems don't allow. Correct. Abrahamic systems, God did this. God made this creation. Believe it. It's a perfect creation. Nothing has changed. If you don't question it, it's a blasphemy. Yeah. So here you had the goal of life was to dispel avidya. Dispel avidya with your true nature. To do that, you must gain vidya by a variety of methods, the darshanas, the pramanas, everything lets you do that. So our civilization was a knowledge-based civilization because of these foundational ideas that our rishis have given us.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, I think let me put the last question for space-related things. What is the relationship between space and time? Right? I think Yajnavalkya himself says one can't exist without the other. And there is this concept of time can't be destroyed and time is still traveling. Right? They say that what has happened in the past is still traveling somewhere in the space. If you're able to project your consciousness there, actually you can have a vision of what happened in the past. And I think our people have extrapolated it. Future is also coming through somewhere. So if you could project your consciousness inward, probably you'll also see the future. Right. So time cannot be destroyed nor created is a concept. How does it resonate in our ancient systems?
So
I mean, compared to the space, both are linked. Right, that's why I'm saying. Andromeda galaxy is 2,000 light years away.
2.5 million light years away.
So that means what happened on Earth or for Earth 2.5 million years away, we can, if you are in that place, probably you would get to see it now.
True, very true. So these questions in modern times was addressed by Einstein. Einstein, who got the space-time relationship. Prior to that, Newtonian physics presume such a relationship does not exist, but Einstein was able to say on the basis of relativity. He was trying to say depending on the platform from which you observe, and if these platforms are in motion, then what are you observing? So these are the kind of ideas he introduced. And in his concept, speed of light is the cosmic speed limit. Nothing can be faster than the speed of light, 186,463 miles per second, or close to 300,000 kilometers per second. That is the speed of light. Nothing can exceed it. Now, in this concept, you have a notion where if you're traveling at close to the speed of light, certain things happen. The mass changes. So I still remember from high school physics, the new mass m dash equal to your actual mass m divided by square root of 1 minus your velocity v divided by velocity of light squared. I remember that from high school for some reason. So as your velocity v approaches the velocity of light c, the denominator becomes 0. When the denominator becomes 0, your apparent mass goes to infinity. Why is this relevant? It's relevant because in order to propel you to go faster and faster, I must provide some energy to you. It's not going to go by itself. To accelerate, I must give you some impulse. Some impulse must be given. What it is saying is the faster and faster you go, the more energy I must expend for you to go to the speed of light. At some point, I'm giving so much energy that I've overcome all the atomic, interatomic forces. The atom is held in place because of electrostatic, electromagnetic forces. I now provided more energy than these atoms need to stay in position. So the atoms dissociate. They dissociate. They'll become protons and neutrons, electrons, because they're given so much energy. If you give even more energy, even those fundamental particles become quarks, protons, and things like that, and you become light. You become light. This is the finding from Einsteinian ideas. We get that. So bottom line, you cannot go to the speed of light. Now let me tell another fascinating concept. This is a Star Trek concept. Supposing, just assume there is no cosmic speed limit. I'm able to go faster than the speed of light, which means, one was in terms of mass, another in terms of time. There's time dilation. Time dilation, T dash, same thing as our actual T divided by all of these things. So it says that as you go faster and faster and closer to the speed of light, in that platform for you, time is going normally, but somebody you're left behind, time is going much, much faster, much, much faster. So for example, you leave your twin on Earth and you go in speed of light, they age, become 100 years, they die, they're gone and so on. But for you, you're still in 1 day over or 2 days over. So that is the concept that comes out of this, time dilation. So we know from Einsteinian theory that space-time is related. In the presence of a super heavy mass, the geometry of space is changed in such a way that space-time is also curved. So this is this relationship that space and time are related. Now, coming back to Sanatana Dharma, our famous Srimad Bhagavatam, we have a story of Kakudmi. Kakudmi had a beautiful daughter called Revati. She was beautiful, accomplished. He could not find an appropriate match for her on earth. So the story tells, he decided to go to Brahma himself. Hey, Brahma, have you made somebody for my daughter? Who is that person? Where is he? So he goes out to Brahmaloka. When he goes to Brahmaloka, Brahma is enjoying a Gandharva concert. So he respectfully stands aside, waiting for the concert to be over. When the concert is over, Brahma calls him, come here, where you come? And he tells him, Brahma starts laughing. He says, why are you laughing? He says, in the time you were waiting, 27 Chaturyugas are over on earth. You're waiting for this concert to be over, 27 Chaturyugas are over on earth. That's approximately 160 or 165 million years. And Kakudmi is desolate. He says, everybody you knew is dead and gone. Kingdoms have come and gone. Everything is gone. Then he says, go back. It'll be time for Bhagavan Krishna and his brother Balarama to be avatars on earth. And Balarama is a right match for your daughter Revati. And that happens. But the story is encoding space-time. Right. The story is talking about time dilation. We know from space-time Einsteinian theories that in the presence of super heavy mass, time slows down for you. Brahma is the creator. Out of his own material, he creates creation. In our concept, we can think of it as the entire mass of the universe is lumped in Brahma. If you're close to Brahma, your space-time has been so curved that time goes very, very, very slowly for you. This notion of space-time is there in Srimad Bhagavatam. Amazing, amazing concept. Now let me go back to the Star Trek story. Supposing you're able to go faster than the speed of light. Let's say you're going 10 times the speed of light. You're going to reach, let's say, Andromeda galaxy 10 times faster, 2.5 million light years, 10 times faster. Supposing going 1,000 times the speed of light, 1 million times the speed of light, you can quickly go from point to point in the universe. Now, Giridharji, supposing I had the technology to travel at infinite speed, not finite, but infinite speed, it means I am at every point in space simultaneously. I am at every point in space simultaneously if I'm at the speed of light. Am I moving? This is Brahman.
Okay.
Brahman that we say is everything. Advaita, we say it's everything. All of creation is in Brahman. Brahman is all pervading. It is everything is in Brahman. This is what we say. So in a sense, if you're traveling at infinite speed, you're everywhere at every point in space, from this tiniest bottle, a molecule over here, onto something on Mars, onto something in Andromeda, and to something else. You're everywhere simultaneously. So space-time is a fascinating concept in terms of seeing how our own ancestors have addressed this. I believe that in our concept of cosmology, understanding of Brahman, we have encoded this notion that it is everything. Everything is in Brahman. Out of Narayana, we show this as Narayana is symbolically in our systems, and we say out of his navel is Brahma. Brahma is connected. Brahma is not independent. He's connected through navel. He is also part of Vishnu, Narayana over here, and he calls creation into existence. So in other words, we are seeing everything is connected in the cosmos in Brahman. Brahman is there simultaneously, which means time is there continuously. All points in time exist in Brahman continuously. Bhagavan Krishna is telling Arjuna in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, he's saying, Arjuna, I know everything. You don't know, you only know this lifetime. I know everything. I know every single lifetime because everything exists simultaneously in Bhagavan. So the notion that time is there in every aspect is contained in our systems, that time is something that we are navigating in this lifetime based on our karma phala. We are doing a certain movement over here. But then we have got enough cases of reincarnation that remembers earlier lifetimes and things like this. And Bhagavan Krishna is saying, I know everything, and so on. So these notions are all built into our systems. Our systems already have considered that time is cyclical. Time is not absolute in this sense. It is indeed controlled in our lifetime by this immutable force that Yajnavalkya is talking about. But then time exists simultaneously in all these things.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think Bhagavan Krishna himself says, Aham Kalosmi.
Yes, I am time.
I am time.
I am time. He says, yes. Amazing, amazing the way our ancestors saw all of these things.
Wonderful.
Yes.
I think we have covered time and space, and I think we'll go to the last segment, which is the future. Right? Whenever some scientific discovery happens anywhere in the West, suddenly we wake up and say, look, it's already there in our system. Some Rishi said something or some Purana said something. So, do we have some indications of what is likely to happen in the future? Like you spoke about universe with
Multiverses.
Multiverse, universe stuff, or quantum physics, or space travel.
Right.
I mean, obviously nothing can travel faster than light.
Yes.
So, and then it vaporizes into energy.
Light, just light, yes.
Right? So, but then do we have any concepts in our system which speak about a faster travel, like what you spoke about Brahman, which simultaneously exists there? So, how do we, I mean, are there directions or indications of what can the scientific community pick up from our knowledge system, Indian knowledge system, for the future developments?
Excellent question. This is something that I also often say, that our ancestors have been around for such a long period of time. When I talk about antiquity of Bharatiya civilization, I go back many tens of thousands of years basically, and I say that this is a long time, and there's accumulation of wisdom. Accumulation of wisdom. Each rishi is referring to another rishi where he got his knowledge, he's made something more contribution to that. We are seeing a gradual accumulation of knowledge as befits an ancient civilization. And I say that our ancestors have got several answers to the problems of humanity. They've addressed these things. In several ways, they've addressed these things. In fact, in my talks, I talk about how our rishis would have addressed the issue of public health. Right? Public health, for example, India is a tropical country. Every time monsoons come, we'll have waterborne diseases. We'll have malaria, we'll have typhoid, cholera. So all through history, we must have suffered these things. Our rishis would have seen entire villages going away. Would they have sat quietly? No, they would have solved the problems of humanity. And the evidence for that is coming from Yoga Vasishta. Yoga Vasishta has got a story of Karkati. Karkati is a monster in Jambudvipa. So she has got an insatiable appetite. She wants to keep eating, and humans in Jambudvipa. One day she's so upset with her own gluttony. She prays to Brahma. Brahma comes, gives her a boon. And she says, I want to become like a pinhead, Suchika. She becomes like a pinhead that can be seen through reflected light. And she says, I want to enter human beings through their nostrils and their ears, make my way to their heart, and eat them from the inside. But she says, I will only eat those people who are living in unhygienic and dirty places, people who don't follow the Dharma Shastras, people who are gluttonous, people who eat untimely things and given to drink. These are the things he says. So what I'm saying is, this is a clear understanding by our Rishi ancestors that disease is caused by an invisible agent. This invisible agent will affect you if you are living in an untidy, unhygienic place, and so on. So there's a clear cause and effect understanding that has been woven into a story. And from there on, we have got evidence of public health in various other places that Indians have this whole notion of ritual purity among the Chaturvarna. So this is seen again because each Varna has got a certain, or Jati has got a certain occupation and some biohazard. If I'm, for example, a weaver community, it's not like the modern factory. I would have a small hut or something and a hand loom and cotton I'm weaving. Every day I'm breathing cotton fibers. Because of that, I may get some respiratory problems, maybe pneumonia, TB, and so on. And I might get some immunity to it. My kid's wife might get immunity. My community gets immunity, but others don't have that immunity. If I'm a butcher, I'm every day chopping animals in my workshop. E. coli, I'm exposed to E. coli. I get some immunity, others don't. If I'm a blacksmith or ironsmith or whatever, I'm again breathing in all the fumes, metal fumes. I have some respiratory issues. If I'm a farmer, I'm working in the soil all the time, exposed to corona complexes and things like that. I get some immunity, others don't have it. Our ancestors understood these things. They understood that each occupation comes with a unique biohazard. Because of that, in Vastu Shastra and others, they prescribe that when the temple is set up here, Brahmins live here, Kshatriyas live here, this community lives here, this community lives here. It was not bigotry. It was a clear understanding of public health concerns. That is why they divided, categorized people in these various areas. And people who serviced all the communities, like people of Chandalas and others who carry dead bodies or night soil and things like that, they were servicing everybody. They had the maximum immunity because they are exposed to all the pathogens. And they were required to live away, slightly away, because nobody has got the immunity they have. That is why in the Dharma Shastras, it talks of purity that if, for example, a Brahmin comes in contact with somebody like this, have one bath. If you come in contact with that person, have 2 ritual baths. You see these things. These have been perverted in the literature over there, the missionary literature and the Eurocentric literature as ritual purity and put as
slavery or untouchability.
Yes, as put in very retrogressive terms, without trying to understand the public health concerns that went there. In my talks, I'm giving a list of evidences. Sushruta Samhita itself talks about this. Sushruta Samhita is talking about epidemics. Epidemics are caused by all of these kind of things, and he's recommending what to do. We have evidence from the British records itself. We're practicing inoculation. The British are saying when they came to India, Indians are practicing inoculation against smallpox and things like that. And it is there in the ancient literature. And who was doing it? The Brahmins are doing it. Brahmins would go to different villages and inoculate everybody who have followed a certain diet. They'll do that. They're not saying, I'll inoculate a fellow Brahmin and won't touch a Kshatriya or something like that. They knew for public health, everybody must be inoculated. So these practices were there in our country, and we knew these things. These have been perverted today, and the public health idea is gone. And today we have just said that, oh, it is just the oppression. This community thinks they are superior to the others and they're oppressing. That's why the ritual purity. We have lost sight of that. The reason for the Brahmin to have maximum muddy or practices is because he was a fellow who would wake up in the morning. After ritual bath, he is doing Gayatri Japa and reading all the mantras, no physical labor, eating simple rice and simple foods, least immunity. That is why the practices, ritual purity practices are most on him. Some other communities, slightly less, because they know you're stronger, you can other things. So our ancestors have thought of all of these things. Why am I saying these things? Because these were ancient solutions to public health problems. Like this, we have got water management issues. Our ancestors have followed a certain way of water management. For example, in old Bangalore, we had a system of tanks, different tanks. Through ordinary gravity, water goes from one tank to the other. The entire town used to get water. Water scarcity was not there. But then after we followed the British system of canals and other such things and damming and so on, silting is a very big issue. As the water keeps coming from the river and hitting the dam, silting is coming up, and you have problems over there. You must keep desilting. So we have got problems because of that. We had to understand that our ancestors have already solved many problems of humanity, whether it is public health, water management, and many other things. Going on to more esoteric things, they even have the mind sciences. Our ancestors have talked to the mind sciences about Brahman, about Tapasya. Patanjali is talking about the Ashtanga Yoga and other ways, how from constant dhyarana, you go on to pratyahara, you go on all the way up to samadhi, you go on these things. In other words, we had an inward journey, going inwards, quietening the mind. As you quieten the mind, then you see that your Atman is basically the reflected light of Brahman. If you don't, if you have avidya, you don't see that. You think I am the doer, I am the only person. That doesn't exist, right? So we are always asked to do this meditation, quieten the minds, withdraw from the senses, and observe these things. This is how our ancestors saw that. These models seem to have bearing in quantum mechanics today. In quantum mechanics, the problem is as you go to subatomic world, suddenly the laws of physics that we know about don't seem to be holding in the way we expect them to. All kinds of strange effects are happening in very, very small distances. For example, if I keep supplying energy to an atom, at some quanta of energy, an electron may jump to a higher shell. But I was supplying continuously, but it required a quanta. That quanta of energy allowed it to jump to the next level. It won't stay there forever, comes back, releases radiation. So these kind of quantum effects have been known. So scientists try to get inspiration for quantum behaviors a lot from our consciousness studies. Our mind sciences, consciousness studies fed a lot into quantum mechanics. For example, in quantum mechanics, it suggests, for example, that events, or quantum events at least, are in a state of superposition. In a state of superposition, and to describe it, for example, if it is 0 and 1 are two outcomes, it says both outcomes exist simultaneously in some spinning probabilities. The probability distribution in which it is happening. Your act of observing it collapses that and you get one outcome. Both outcomes would have been possible, but your observation caused one of them to happen. So these are the observer effect. Like this, there are so many other effects. So a lot of Vedanta models have been used in quantum mechanics to try to model these effects and behaviors, because our ancestors have already studied many of these things. Now you said one more thing. It is only after the West says these things, then Indians come and say we already had it. It is unfortunate because we know our systems, but we are not able to contemporize them to modern language. We know a lot of these things, but we cannot contemporize it. When in the West, somebody has done some experiment and says this is what has happened, we're able to see the correlation. We're able to see, yes, this is what is impacting that. This is a source of critique for many people who say, why didn't you come in the first place and say these things? Well, many, many factors. First of all, was there a driving concern for you to do this, to seek a solution here? If there's no driving concern, maybe you never bother to look at it. You know it exists, but it never occurred to you to use it for something. But when somebody brings it up, then you say, yes, it is already there and here, and I now understand the importance. It's not a matter of shame. It is only a matter of how much we have been removed from our knowledge systems. Our ancestors have accumulated so much of knowledge, but we have become deracinated. We have become distant from our knowledge system thanks to the Islamic invasions, thanks to the British education system. Our deracination is almost complete. We have tiny slivers connecting us to our past.
Wonderful, wonderful. I mean, I hope with efforts by people like you, maybe that tiny connection would start strengthening.
Yes.
And we get to reconnect back to our great Bharatiya knowledge systems. And then at some point in time, as we see the West is slowly collapsing internally, probably we should take that Vishwaguru Sthana.
Right.
And Raj Vedam ji, it was wonderful talking to you. I know we can go on because this is a massive subject of thousands of years, if not millenniums.
Right.
But then, given the time that we have, I think you have spoken very extensively on at least 2-3 topics that I, asked of you. Thank you so much, and we all wish you all the very best in your fight for reviving the greatness of Bharat. And you're sitting somewhere, but then you're deeply connected with all of us here. With your own efforts, whenever you come, none of us are able to contribute to the cause that you pick up. It's an individual effort that you are taking up and then trying to spread the knowledge, understanding that you have. So we really congratulate you for all the efforts that you're putting in, and we wish you all the very best.
So thank you so much, Giridhar ji, and to Nationalist Hub for hosting me over here. I want to say one thing. We are all in this journey together. A scholar may do a lot of work. It may sit in his or her head, but it is useless. It is useless unless it goes to the masses. And a scholar may not be able to connect to the masses. That is where the community comes. Groups like Nationalist Hub and several others who organize these public events through the YouTube or through public meetings and so on, that is where the scholar's voice is heard out in the public. So we are a team. We are a team where one is creating the content, one is helping to distribute that content. It is critically necessary for our civilization. We are a reawakening civilization, right? We have been in slumber for a long time. We are reawakening. That reawakening can be hastened when groups like yours and many, many others join hands with scholars and gives them opportunities like this to go to the public. For that, I thank you very much. So thank you for that opportunity. And I request others watching this to create opportunities for scholars where they can go and take that message to the masses.
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful. Dhanyavad. Namaste.
Namaste.
So, friends, you have gone through, you have heard what Raj Vedam ji said. I just picked up 2-3 topics. It is time, space, and of course, what is the future road ahead. One could talk about the distortions in history. We could talk about metallurgy. We could talk about many, many things. I'm sure all of you have, at least most of you have visited, saw his videos. I strongly urge that you follow Raj Vedam ji on social media, and please go and watch his videos, which are extensively available in YouTube. And probably you could ask questions. In our this video itself, you can ask a lot of questions. We will try and pass it on to him, and wherever possible, we'll try and reach out to you. But of course, he's also available in other social media handles. So please follow us, subscribe to our channel, and like and share this particular content to as many people as possible. Like Raj Vedam ji said, it's just not that we try our best efforts to bring out this content, but this has to also spread. This is such a rich content. We are so, we are just flowing away in the current issues, especially political issues and things like that. We tend to forget our originality, so our roots. So when we are talking about such serious subjects, and which gives us pride and which gives our identity a new strength, I think all of you really have an obligation and a responsibility to like, subscribe, and also take this content to as many people as we can, so that the greatness of Bharat grows in strength and in wisdom, and eventually we all become the force for which we call it as Vishwaguru. Dhanyavad. Namaste.
ఈ వీడియో మీకు నచ్చినట్టయితే లైక్ చేయండి, 10 మందికి షేర్ చేయండి. అలాగే కామెంట్ల రూపంలో మీ అభిప్రాయాలను మాతో పంచుకోండి. నేషనలిస్ట్ హబ్ గ్రూప్ ఆఫ్ ఛానల్స్ ను సబ్స్క్రైబ్ చేసుకుని తెలుగునాట జాతీయవాద జర్నలిజాన్ని ప్రోత్సహించండి. ఈ వీడియో కింద ఉన్న బెల్ ఐకాన్ పై క్లిక్ చేయడం మర్చిపోవద్దు.